Hello, everybody. My name's Rick McCutcheon. I'm a Dynamics 365 Business Applications MVP. And today, there's over 300,000 business professionals on LinkedIn with the job title Digital Adoption Specialist. So, we've got this show going, and it's called the Digital Adoption Podcast. And today, we've got Joachim Schiermacher, the CEO of ClickLearn, who's the co-host, and our special guest, Bob McAdam from Cavallo and the Enterprise Software Podcast. So, Bob, introduce yourself. Tell us a little bit about your history in the world of Dynamics, and tell us about your podcast.
Okay. Great to be with you guys. So thanks for the invite. I'm Bob McAdam, Vice President, Strategic Partnerships at Cavallo, which in the Dynamics GP space is formerly known as SalesPad. I've been in the Microsoft channel now 26 years, which seems hard to believe. And got my start back in 98 when Y2K was a thing and everyone was concerned about being on a DOS-based system and not a Windows-based system. So during that time, I've done consulting work. I've been a customer on a mid-size ERP. I've led our community at Dynamic Communities for a period of time, and now I'm working for an ISV in the Microsoft Dynamics space. So I've sat in a lot of chairs in the Dynamics ecosystem and have really enjoyed it. As we all know, there's never a dull moment in the Microsoft Dynamics channel, that's for sure. Currently, I am at Cavallo, managing our reseller partners to the best of my ability. We write distribution-centric offerings for Dynamics GP and Dynamics 365 Business Central. So we are quite busy growing that business and contemplating what's next. I'm also co-host and co-founder of Enterprise Software Podcast, which you will find at enterprisesoftwarepodcast.com. We will have been doing that show now for 10 years in May, which honestly, it's hard to believe. If someone had told me that I'd be a podcast host for a decade, I would have told them they were crazy, Rick. But here we are, almost at 10 years. It's hard to believe.
Okay, thank you, Bob. You have anything to ask Bob to get things rolling?
No, I'm super excited about having you on board here, Bob, and I look forward to our conversation today. I have actually heard quite a few episodes, and I have to say it's a really, really good.
Well, thank you, sir. It's a lot of fun, and I've met a lot of great people over the years, indeed, from all sorts of ecosystems that I never ever knew much about or contemplated being in. So thank you.
Okay, Bob, so let's kind of get started. And, as a podcaster, you engage in deep conversation with technology executives. Where do enterprise software vendors stand in their approach to digital adoption?
Every technology executive that we've spoken to at Enterprise Software Podcast is all in on digital adoption. In fact, I can't think of one that is not all in, right? That's where our industry is going. It's exciting, and they are all in. So we've had opportunities to speak with Steve Murphy and Lisa Pope at Epicor, Scott Bear at CISPRO USA, John Case and Sanket Akarikar at Acumatica, and they are all in on digital adoption. They want to move people to cloud solutions yesterday, and they are working overtime with their dev teams to make sure that the latest and greatest technology is available to existing and prospective customers of their various ecosystems. Darcy and Todd and I talked to Sage people and Microsoft people and NetSuite people and Infor folks, and they are all in on digital adoption. It is exciting. The competition is forcing all of them to work diligently and endlessly on trying to get there first. And certainly since Microsoft dropped all that money on OpenAI recently, adding it to its voluminous stack of solutions, that's just accelerating the competition to bring AI into all these ERP and CRM applications so that customers and prospects can really grow their business in the cloud. They are all working overtime, and if you ask any of them about digital adoption or how to get a small to mid-size or even tier one company into the cloud, they could talk about that topic, my friends, for a very, very long time. It is fun to listen to, and I do enjoy it. But yeah, they are all in, Rick. I can't find one who has said, I'm all about being on premises and we're going to hold the line on digital adoption, right? None of them are saying that. It's
Joachim, are
exciting.
you seeing the same thing from software companies?
I think that every vendor that we have an open ISV program as well, where we're trying to serve ISVs with our technology and basically white labeling into their solutions. And my overall impression is that this is definitely an agenda that's being driven forward really
So my
fast.
second part of this question, and we'll start with you, Bob, has this trickled down into their reseller networks?
Yes, I'd say so, almost to a fault. So I'm all about digital adoption and moving to the cloud, but I want it to be the right decision for the stakeholder. And sometimes I feel like in the reseller channel, partners are being pressured so much by publishers to move customers into the cloud that they're not contemplating what's best for the business itself. What do the stakeholders of businesses X or Y or Z, what are their requirements? What are their goals? Is going to the cloud going to help them reach their goals faster? Or do they have other things they have to consider, regulations or, broadband capabilities nearby? Do they have those things ready to go so they can make the move to the cloud? And the cloud isn't going to be for everybody. I do feel that resellers are placing a lot of push on customers and prospects to go to the cloud right away. And given what we've been through the past 3 years, I don't know that all smaller or mid-sized companies are ready for this just yet. They may not be. And sometimes I feel like the publishers are really push, and there's no regard for stakeholder requirements or needs at the time.
So do you think that moving a customer to the cloud really enhances digital adoption, or does it have its own set of challenges?
I gotta be honest. I don't think it has any intrinsic value. I mean, it's not as if the cloud will suddenly open itself up for a 20 employee company
Right.
producing whatever metal unit, and that have been on the same ERP for 20 years and now transitioning into a new one. I don't think it's necessarily a part of their agenda that moving into the cloud can suddenly move their business tremendously. I think that the idea of driving to the cloud is very much pushed from software vendors, right? Because it's a very, very brilliant idea that we have everyone on the newest platform, right? So the idea that you are consistently evergreen holds tremendous value for every vendor, because it basically guarantees you that that your customers are never outdated. Means that you're removing some of the competitive barriers in terms of that the customers are actually transitioning into a new ERP system and moving away from your platform by making sure that they have all the latest and greatest. But I think that the ability for a customer to consume everything that's going into a new release and doing it at the pace that our vendors are now pushing our
Right.
new versions forward. I don't think that's a game for everyone, to be honest. I think that, and especially on the mission
Yeah,
critical
right.
system. So I agree very much with Bob. And if it's not instrumental to your business to be in the cloud, that means that you have 178 apps that needs to work together in a cloud environment. That makes a lot of sense. But if you are like a mono application company with a single ERP system, you got to look at it and really say, is this really for me? I mean, is this going to drive my business faster forward that I'm inside the cloud? And I'm not sure the
Yeah,
answer is
that's a
yes
great
always.
point. I mean, let's look at what we're doing at Cavallo. At our GP sales pad, our sales pad for Dynamics GP offerings, which have been in existence now for 20 years, we have customers that have been on them for 10, 15, almost 20 years. And they're customizable, and these folks have been running on premises for a long time. And moving let's put it this way. The reason GP was sold in the first place was because of our offerings for distribution. So the customer liked what we did because they were a distributor, and so they bought Dynamics GP. It's a heavy lift moving from a customized solution that you've been running for 10 plus years, maybe even 20, to something else. Are we excited about what we're doing for Business Central? You're damn right we are. It's really good and robust, but that doesn't mean that someone who's been on the same system 15, 17, 18, 20 years can just instantly snap their fingers and move to the cloud with all their processes and all their requirements ready to go and the same level of performance and no downtime. That's a heavy lift, and I've done plenty of ERP upgrades, and I know there's a lot on the line and a lot to worry about and integrations and all that. So it's not an easy fit at all in some cases. Depends on how long the company's been running their existing ERP. They may not be in a spot right now where they want to take that risk in jumping to a new ecosystem and redeploying what they already have.
And I think you made a good point because I remember we were working in the warehouse management systems for a while, and when we
Right,
started giving people the mouse, right,
right.
they were running the keyboards with all the hotkeys, and they're going, "What do
Yeah,
you mean I've got to use a mouse?" And you'd watch them,
right.
and their productivity would drop 80%, right,
You're
as
exactly
they
right.
struggled to use a mouse. And I think we see the same thing as we use integrated software. It's no longer tab, tab, tab. All of a sudden, I'm
Right.
going click, 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 which can make a difference to some users. So I think
Yep.
all this is really important as we, progress people into the cloud and into change. So, Bob, our next question. Companies are investing a lot in their applications, a lot of money in AI, and we talked about that. Do you think
Hmm.
the vendors are investing enough in digital adoption tools and learning tools for their end user customers?
That's hard to say. In some cases, yes, but in a lot of cases, no. And have we lost sight of the software user? I think sometimes, yes, we have. There is a big push from these really big cloud computing companies, right? Microsoft's a $2 trillion cap company, and even though the Dynamics space or the Dynamics portion of their business is just a sliver, they're exerting a lot of pressure on partners, and partners are exerting that pressure on end users. And is there a lot of training and possibilities? Sure. Are we losing sight of what the stakeholders are looking for? I think so. If you're running a small to mid-sized business, the last 3 years, you have 3 plus really. You've had a lot of rash decisions you've had to make because of circumstances we've all been dealing with, right? We had the pandemic where if you're an on-premises customer, you had to learn how to get your people to work remotely, like in short order, in order to keep the business running. We've had supply chain issues, some of which still linger on today. The price of energy is way up and not coming down anytime soon. Interest rates, at least in the United States, are high, and they're not going to come down anytime soon. So access to capital has been diminished significantly. For a small to mid-sized business, they'd probably just like a couple of years of normalcy where they could scale their business, hire new people, and make a profit. But the last 3 plus years, they've had to make all these rash decisions just to survive. So, I'm concerned about learning and change management and all that, but I'm also more concerned about whether or not stakeholder requirements and whatnot are being met, because the push to the cloud is sometimes a bit overwhelming. And given the last 3 plus years, we've had enough of overwhelming, and we'd like some normalcy, some time to plan accordingly, budget accordingly, be profitable, scale. And we haven't had that chance in the last 3.5 years, unfortunately.
Jochen, would you like to add anything?
Yeah, I think that vendors, IT software vendors, are a particular breed of people. To be honest, I mean, we're so used to
Yeah,
driving changes and disrupting ourselves on a daily basis, right? That we forget that actually there's no one at the end user level that has ever asked, "Can you please come in and disrupt me? Right? Can you come in and
exactly.
change my world
Right.
completely by tomorrow?" And the idea that we believe that change is inherently good, and you're just supposed to change all the time, and we don't even need to anymore even pose an argument to why it's a good thing. I think that leads to a lot of frustration at the end user level, because seriously they didn't ask for
Mm-hmm.
this, right? So I think that when I look at vendors now, this standardization, it's not just about I want everyone to go into the cloud, right? In the ERP space, we are very much now standardizing on processes as well, right? So the argument that you hear is, yeah, you might have, order to cash. This might look like this, but you should change that to look like our system because it's really good. And it's like, yeah, it might be, but it's not really. It's not my type of thing. It's a good thing
No.
for the vendor because having standardized processes is like that's a dream come true, right? If you have that, then you pretty much own the entire space. So I think that we are starting to get our eyes
Right.
open towards this, but I still feel that the ones that are suffering the most is probably Debbie from marketing, who's sitting at the end of the line on whatever system and saying, "I didn't ask for this, guys." So
Okay,
Yeah.
thank you. Okay, Bob, go ahead.
I was just going to say that those are excellent points. ISVs and other technology companies are driving change, and that's great, right? We're all trying to compete for the best solution possible. But boy, the last few years have been rough on a lot of small and mid-sized businesses, and sometimes you just got to stop and take a breath and examine your business and make sure it's moving in the direction you want it to move. And I don't know that all the publishers and or partners are necessarily taking that into consideration. And a partner, your reseller partner, should be planning your business's success with you, not necessarily telling you, "Hey, this is what you need to do." So,
And I
a
think
lot
on
of change.
your reseller partner business, they're so busy upgrading the technology because of the disruptions, right?
Yes.
That I think sometimes they don't even think about, okay, should I have a digital adoption practice? Is that
Right.
part of my business? Because it's almost like, hey, I've got the plumbing running. Now I got to get out of here and go do the next leak I've got going at the next customer. Can I stick
Yep.
around and show them how to use all the new faucets and showers and dishwashers and everything else? So I think there's still that gap because things are happening so fast.
Yeah, I can't speak for all the publishers, but I've been a Microsoft Dynamics partner two different times over 13 years of my career. Being a Microsoft Dynamics reseller partner is tough. It is not an easy job, and some days the publisher makes it even more difficult. It's a tough role to play. A lot of pressure on Dynamics partners to meet the publisher goals.
Okay, Bob, I want to thank you for joining us today on this conversation. And I want to ask you, do you have any sort of final thoughts to leave our audience with?
Well, we're spending a lot of time talking about a digital adoption, and it's all exciting and new and fun to keep track of, and watching all the AI news come out. And, it's exciting and it's frightening all at the same time. So I am excited about the space I'm in. Cloud computing and digital adoption in general, just very fun place to be. Never a dull moment. I just sometimes you want things to slow down. It's a hectic pace at which we're moving. So I wouldn't want to be doing anything else in my career, but and I'm going to continue to push hard for end user companies. I've been an end user myself. I want to see end users find success. When end users find success with their business, and all of us are going to do better because they're going to continue to leverage the technology in our services. So I just want to make sure that all of this isn't moving too fast, because I work with a lot of small to mid-sized businesses, and they're cautious about what's coming ahead. They know that going to the cloud or leveraging some sort of hybrid model makes sense, but a lot of them are intimidated by that technology, just like we saw 25 years ago when they were coming off of DOS-based systems and going to Windows with SQL Server. This is kind of the same thing all over again. They know it's a trend in technology that they need to be on, but there's a lot to absorb, and a lot of them are intimidated. And if we can educate end users about what's best for their business and their requirements, we will all be better off. And people just need to keep that sort of thing in mind.
But at least they're pretty good with the mouse nowadays. Back then, we
They're
had
really
that
good with that.
challenge.
Yeah. That took like 10 years to get some of the keyboard happy folks over to a mouse. But you're right. That's finally made it. People do adopt to change. It's just
Yeah,
sometimes
takes
slowly.
time. Joachim,
Yep.
would you like to give us any final thoughts on
Right.
today's conversation?
I think one of the great takeaways today is probably that as a customer you got to make sure that every piece of technology you're bringing into your business actually is
Hmm.
serving your agenda. Make sure that understand clearly that the vendor's
Yep.
agenda is not your agenda. They have a different agenda than you do. They are trying to run their business as efficiently as possible, and you're a vehicle in that part of it as well. The transition to the cloud is very much driven by a vendor trend, and it's definitely serving the vendor. But you gotta make sure that it's serving you as well, and it's tapping into your agenda.
Okay, gentlemen, thank you for your time today, and I'm sure we'll be back to you in the near future to talk more about digital adoption. Have a great day, and bye for now.